Okay. Well, we warmly welcome everyone on this Leil B'dika night. Leil B'dika night is a night when there is very little learning in the world, and people are just so busy with so many different things. So our learning tonight is very appreciated by the Rebbeinu Shalom. I used to tell my Olam in Borough Park, we had way over 100 people on B'dika night, and I used to tell them that there were special nights that I was very proud of. Matzah Yom Kippur, when we could have over 200 people on a Matzah Yom Kippur, and Purim night, where we had sometimes 200 people Purim night, and the night of B'dika. Those are really, really hard nights. Another night that was a very hard night was the night after Tisha B'Av. It was also a very hard night. So anyway, it's great to have all of you here and joining us as we are sponsored in this tour through Makos by Eddie Chazan, L'Refuah Shalema for Yedidya Ben Penina, Shoshana Bas Penina, and Simone Bas Rachel. We're co-sponsored anonymously, Lila Nishmas, David Ben Chaim, L'Refuah Shalema for Eliyah Moshe Mechai Sarah, Yaakov Ben Bas Yilei, and the schus of Avram Ben Yom Benish Ben Malki Yudis and family. And we are co-sponsored by Shelley Zeitlin, L'Refuah Shalema for myself, my Shemaya Ben Esther Fadel, and the schus of his children, Eli, Orit, and Ora. Okay, we'll try to mute everybody over here. Now, we are holding with a little bit of a complex piece of Gemara as we start 4 lines from the bottom of Daf Gimel Amid Beis. 4 lines from the bottom of Daf Gimel Amid Beis. So the halach is, we know that a mikveh, you need 40 sa of natural rainwater, where it came in without being drawn with a keli. Before it reaches the limit, the minimum of 40 sa, the Chachamim decreed that if you mix into it 3 lug of mayim she'uvim, of drawn water, it becomes disqualified. What's going to be a question now is if you have 3 lugin and the mix is into it a little bit of wine and it makes it red, will it disqualify? Do we say that we go basar color, chazusa, because wine doesn't disqualify, only water disqualifies. So do we go basar chazusa, the appearance, and then it won't disqualify? Or do we go basar the majority makeup? And of course the majority makeup is of water, and then it will disqualify. So let's see the Gemara inside. V'am Rabbi Yehuda Amarav, shloishes lugin mayim. 3 lug of water. That's the minimum that disqualifies if it did not yet reach to 40 sa. But shenafal is seichan kurtav shel yain. A little bit of wine, that's 1/64 of a lug. A little bit of wine got mixed up. Umarein kemarayain. And it has the appearance, that little bit made it red. V'nafal mikvah. And it falls into the mikveh. Rav says that we go basar chazusa, we go basar its appearance, and therefore loy paslua, it doesn't disqualify the mikveh. Maskvur Kahana v'chima bein zela meit seva. Why is this any different than dyed water? Water that a colored dye is mixed into. Did nan Rabbi Yossi Aimer meit seva, dyed water, paislin as a mikveh, b'shloishes lugin, even though it's dyed, it has a dye in it, it still disqualifies the mikveh. So Rava says you're comparing apples to oranges. Amalei Rava Hasa Maya Detziva Mikre. It's called dyed water, so it still has the status of water. And drawn water disqualifies a mikveh. But when you mix in a quart of wine, it's not called dyed water, it's called blended wine. Hacha Chamra Meziga Mikre. It's called now blended wine. And since it's called wine, it doesn't disqualify the mikveh. Says the Gemara, but v'hatani Rebbe Chia hayridu es ha-mikveh. Rebbe Chia, how could Rav say that the mikveh is kosher when a little bit of wine gets mixed into the 3 lugin? But v'hatani Rebbe Chia in his brisa said hayridu es ha-mikveh, that it disqualifies the mikveh. That the mikveh that has water with a little bit of wine mixed in disqualifies the mikveh. So Amar Rava, so Rava says, like kasha, there's no difficulty. Ha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, ha Rabbanan. It's machlokes Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and the Rabbanan. Itanan. Now the case that we're going to learn now is a little bit different. In this case, you see, in the first case that Rav was talking about, we had a full 3 lugin of water, and then the wine fell in afterwards. In this case now, you're not going to have 3 lugin. You're going to have 3 lugin less a little bit. And the minimum is going to be completed with either wine or milk. So it's a little bit of a different case. The Tanan, shloishes lugin mayim, 3 lug of water, chosar kurtiv. It's missing a 64th of a lug. So you don't have the minimum to disqualify. Shenafa l'saychan kurtiv yayin. And it falls inside it to complete it. A 64th of a lug of wine. Umareyan kamari yayin, and its appearance looks like wine. V'nafal mikvah loy pasluhu, and it falls into the mikvah. It doesn't passel the mikvah. Now here, the reason could simply be because you don't have the necessary minimum. The necessary minimum is 3 lug, and you don't have 3 lug of water. You have 3 lug minus a kurtiv. V'chein gimel lug mayim chaser kurtiv shenasan l'seichav kurtiv chalav. And also, if you have 3 lug of water, less a kurtiv, less a 64th, that falls in a 1/64th of a lug of milk, or mare and kamara mayim, and it really appears like water, still, v'nafal mikvah loy pasur. If it falls into mikvah, it doesn't pass it. Why? Because again, milk doesn't pass the mikvah, and you don't have 3 lugin of mayim shuvin. It's missing that 1/64th. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says not so fast. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says we go according to appearance. So if the quart of milk falls in, since at the end of the day you have an appearance of now 3 lug of mayim shuvin, that will disqualify. The wine, where it doesn't have an appearance, it won't disqualify. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, says the Gemara. So therefore says the Gemara, according to the Rabbanan Taka don't go according to appearance, and therefore the Rabbanan Taka will be like the Bryce of Reb Chia, that even though the wine falls into the water, if the water has 3 lugin already, the fact that now that it has appearance doesn't change it, and it'll still be disqualified. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri goes according to the appearance, and then even if it's 3 lugin of water, but if a little wine falls in and gives it a different appearance, it's not going to disqualify. Says the Gemara, but hamibai bay la Rapapa. Rapapa actually was not sure what the girsa was in the first case where the Rabbanan say where you have 3 lugin and the wine falls in. There is a girsa that says that it's talking about where you have a full 3 lugin and the wine falls in. and it doesn't passel the mikvah, because the wine changes it even if it's full 3 lugin. And then everybody will hold, like Rav, that chazusa counts. Says the Gemara, do we say Rav Tani Chaser Kurtav Bereisha, that Rav taught in the Reisha, where the Rabbanan say if it's a mikvah that has 3 lug minus a kurtav, so only there where wine falls in is it not going to pass on the mikvah because you don't have a full 3 lug of water. Aval shloisha lugin l'tanakama, but if it is a full 3 lugin of water and then the wine falls in, the Tanakama would passel, even though it changes the appearance. Passel. And then it would be that the Tanakama would not be like Rav, but rather like the Bryce of Rav Chia, that we don't go basar appearance. If there's a full 3 lugin of water, even though it gets an appearance of wine, it would still disqualify the mikvah. V'asa Rabbi Yochanan l'meimer, and Rabbi Yochanan Nuri argues and says, "Hakaloi l'chal amar." And then Rav, who says that we go according to appearance, I make Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. He says like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. O Dilma, Rav loitani chaser kurta bereisha. Rav doesn't teach in the words of the Chachamim chaser kurta, and it's talking about mikvah of 3 lugin and wine falls in. Even the Rabbanan agree it doesn't disqualify because the red changes the color, and chazusa milsa. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is only arguing on the second case. The second case is talking about where it was chaser kurtav and milk fell in. So there the Rabbanan say it's not disqualified because you don't have a full 3 lugin. You have 3 lugin minus a kurtav and a kurtav of milk. That doesn't combine. While over there, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, no, since it has the appearance of water, it does combine. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri keep polig aseifa with the polig. And then, that would mean that the Rabbanan, who don't say chaser kurtav in the Reisha, and they say that even if the wine falls in afterwards, since there's 3 lugin of water, without it, it passels, they don't go basar chazusa, and then Rav would only be able to be going according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. V'Rav Damakid, excuse me, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri keep polig aseifa with the polig. He argues on the seifa, right? Because the Reisha says that if there's 3 lugin, if it doesn't say chaser kurtav, it says that if there's 3 lugin and wine falls in, it doesn't pass on the mikvah. So you see that even the Tanakama says that the wine will change it, and we go basa chazusa and it doesn't disqualify. And then v'rav da'amakid ivrei hakol says the Gemara, you're right. Rav Papa miboile. Rav Papa had a shaila. L'Rava pshitale. According to Rava, it was pashit that the Reisha also talks about where it's chaser kurtav, and it's only because it's chaser kurtav, it's lacking a kurtav, that's why it doesn't passel the mikvah. But if there would be 3 lugin of water and the wine fell in, it would passel the mikvah, because the Tanakam, the Chachamim, do not hold chazusa milsi. They argue on Rav, rather they hold like Reb Chia. Amar Rav Yosef, Leishmiya li hashmaitza. I never heard of this discussion. Amalei Abaya at Amrit Nihalan, V'hachi Amrit Nihalan. You told it to us, you taught it to us, and so did you teach us. The Rav loitani chaser kurtav bereisha. Rav did not teach in the case of where it gets mixed in the wine that it was chaser kurtav, but rather Rav taught that if there's 3 lugin of water and it mixes in wine afterwards, even according to the Rabbanan, it doesn't pass on the mikvah because chazusa milsi, and that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri only argues in the case of the milk. For Rabbi Yochanan, a Seifa Polik, and then Rav, who says that if it's 3 lug but wine gets mixed in, it doesn't pass the mikvah, would be holding both according to Rabbanan and according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. V'Rav da'amar k'divrei hakol. Now, does anybody want to venture a question on this? Now, v'amar Rabbi Yehuda amar Rav. Rabbi Yehuda says another halacha from Rav. It's an interesting din. A person was going to go jump into tefillah in the Mediterranean, which we call the Yam HaGadol. Now what happened over here was chavyus malei mayim, a barrel full of water. Now that's mayim she'uven. Now there is a halacha about mikvah, which is a halacha d'Rabbanan. But there's a halacha, if Shelley goes to the mikvah and then takes a shower afterwards, he's tamei. Now why he's tamei d'Rabbanan. Now why should he be tamei? What's wrong with a shower? We were afraid that if people would go to the mikveh and take a shower, people might say that it's the shower that brings the tara. So in order that shouldn't be the case, they said you shouldn't take a shower after coming out of the mikveh. And if you take a shower, you're tamei. Now with that in mind, you have a barrel of water, which is like a shower, because it's drawn water. Shenaflo liyam hagadol, that fell into the Mediterranean. Hatoivel sham, if Shelley is toivel in the area where the barrel fell in, now here becomes tahar, because even if the water, was mayim she'uven, when it comes in contact with the huge Mediterranean, through hashaka, it becomes good. But we're afraid upon exiting, he passes through that water that fell out of the barrel, and in the regard to the Gezerah d'Rabbanan, it's like he passed through a shower. So, Atoivel Sham loy also like tefillah. Why? Chayshinan l'shloish lugin. We're afraid that when he comes out, he passes through the 3 lug of water from the barrel, which is like a shower, and then it's like he's taking a shower after the tefillah. But that's only if he goes in the Mediterranean, which is still water. V'dafka liyam hagadol dekoy v'kama. It's still water. Aval nara ba'alma, but if he goes in a river that has a swift current, loy. There we're not worried, because as soon as he dumps in the barrel, the water will move away. Tanya Namihachi, we learned likewise. Chavius Malaya Yayin, a barrel full of wine. Shenafla Yam HaGadol, that fell into the Yam HaGadol. Hatoivel Sham, if you immerse there, loy also loy tefillah. Now here, what we're worried about is that when you immersed, part of your body went into the wine and it served as a chatzitza, as an interposition. And not only that, if then when he comes out, he touches a loaf of truma, v'chein kikar shel truma shenafel sham, a loaf of truma that fell there, tamei. Why? Because that wine that when you came out, you touched, became tamei, and that wine touches the truma and makes it tamei. So the Gemara says, "My v'chein." Why is that likewise? What's the chiddush? I mean, well, if the wine is going to be tamei, it's going to make tamei the loaf of truma. No, maybe it's a suffix. So where Shelley, when he immersed, was tamei, so he had a cheskes tuma. But the truma that fell in, it was tar. It has a cheskes tar. And since Shelley was tamei, he should remain tamei. Hacha uke truma achazaka, and there we should say that since the truma was tar, we should assume that it's still tar. Kamash malan, that we don't. And again, this is only in the Mediterranean where the water is still. In another river which has a current, we're not worried because the wine was already swept away, and then both Sheli and the challah will be tar. It's interesting to learn about a kicker on the night of Bedika. Actually, I hate to tell you, it's our night of Bedika, but this isn't the daf of the night of Bedika. We're two blot ahead. So, okay, shucks. Now, that was, by the way, that was a hard piece of Gemara. If you found it a little hard, and then you're completely normal. It's okay. Michal Avram knew to come in late. He figured I'll miss the Gemara.
Because I didn't understand the Gemara. I am completely normal. Thank you.
I just want to say for the record that I was exaggerating.
Not even a little.
The new Mishnah on Daf Daled, we have a skeleton crew here tonight, which is understandable. It's a very busy night, but we should give honorable mention to Berish Gesseman and Ruvain Palak and Mel Zachter and Ben Zion Cohn, Mo Kushner, Chaim Lerner, Saba, Yaakov Warman, Nachman Chapler, Shimon Klein, Dr. Black, Aaron Swade, Shelley Zeitlin, Dr. Guy, and Menachem Umansky, Barry Cement, Gedalia Engel, Avram Schenkman, Yitzi Muller, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Shelley Zeitlin, and here in the shul holding the fort is Michal Avram and Ruvain Shanet. Zog the Heilige Mishnah. Now, we need over here two scruffy witnesses. Okay, so we have Barry, and we have Yaakov. Okay, so, and then we need somebody who's going to get beaten up. Who are we going to beat up tonight? Well, we'll beat up Gedalia. So, he's in the black over there anyway, so we'll beat him up. So, Me'iden anu bi'ish pliny, shechayev lechaveiroi mosayim zuz. So, Yaakov and Barry testify that Gedalia owns Dr. Black $200. V'nimtzu zaymim. And they're found to be, they say that the loan took place in Lakewood on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and Barry and Yaakov were found to be cruising by the Bahamas. So the Tanakama says that Loikin u'Mishalma, both Barry and Yaakov get Malchus, and they have to pay the $200. Why? They get the Malchus because they're over the lava Lisanim Reach Shaker. And they have to pay because of Kasher Zomam Lasa Zachiv. That's the opinion of Rameh. The Chacham say, no, that's not the case. If they pay, they don't get Malchus. So spare the Ben Gay. Pay, but they don't get Malchus. Next case. They say that Gedalia ate pork. Shame on you, Gedalia. He ate pork, and therefore he's Chayiv Malchus. V'nimtzu zaymimin, and he's found it's not true. They couldn't see. They were cruising in the Bahamas. So Rameya says we give them two sets of Malchus, like in Shmeinim. First of all, we give them Malchus because they testified falsely, Mishum Leisanim Re'achei Shaker, and because they wanted to give Gedalia Malchus. Or Mishum Lasisim Loik Kasher Zamam Divrei Meir. The Chacham say in Loikin Al-Arbon, they only get one Malchus. So now, as we turn the page, always nice to turn the page. learning on this holy night of Bdika. Many miracles happen for Klal Yisrael. Night of Bdika. You know something? Today's Mishnah Yomis took about as long as the Daf is taking. It was a very long Mishnah Yomis, but I looked it up. It isn't the longest Mishnah in Shas. The longest Mishnah in Shas is in Masechtas Kalim. And actually the second longest Mishnah in Shas is in Idias, but it's in Perek Ches. So we have an even longer Mishnah coming. But certainly today's Mishnah, the last Mishnah in the fifth Perek of Idias, qualifies as one of the longest Mishnayos of Shas. No question about it. But anyway, so the Gemara says that the Rabbanan say that if Barry and Yaakov say that Gedalia owes $200, and it's found out that they were cruising in the Bahamas, so the Rabbanan say they pay and they don't get Malchus. So the Gemara says, well, the Rabbanan shtim with a rule that we have through Shas. B'shalom Rabbanan, it says in the pasuk, Kedei Rishasei Ksiv, according to his wickedness in the singular, Mishum Risha Achas Ata Mechayv, you only Mechayv him for one guilt, V'ata Mechayv Mishum Shtei Rishayas, and not for two guilts. And therefore, that once they pay, they don't get Malchus. El Rameir, my timer. Says Rameir, I learned it out from the din of a man who maligned his Kala and said he didn't find her virginity. So, Amar Ula Gamar Mamaitzi Shemra. Ma Maitzi Shemra Loike Umishalem. He gets Malchus. And he has to pay a knas of 100 shkalim. After everywhere else, like Umishalem. So Gemara says, you can't bring a raya from Maitzi Shemra. Ma'ala Maitzi Shemra shekain knas. So the Gemara says, that's okay. Reb Meir holds, like Rabbi Kiva, that Edom Zayim is also knas. So like Rabbi Kiva, that Edom Zayim is also knasu. Now, Ikin the Masni Lahad de Ula, some teach this statement of Ula that we learn out from Maitzi Shemra on a different subject. Ahad Sanya, there's a din of noiser, that when you have a carbon, you should eat it all up and you shouldn't leave it over until the morning. Now, if you do leave it over after the morning, you don't get Malchus. The question is, why don't you get Malchus? The Tanya Loisisiru Mimenu Ad Baiker, you shouldn't leave it until the morning. Vanoisim Mimenu Ad Baiker, if it's left over until the morning, Be'esh Tisraifel. Ba'akos of Litain Asay Achar Loisasay, it gives us a positive commandment to burn it after the negative commandment. Loimer she'ein loikin olav. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. In other words, that's a rule that alav anitik lasei. Like it says you shouldn't steal, but it says v'heishav v'sagzela asher gazel. So a lav that's connected to a positive commandment is no malchus. So here too, since it says ma'noisim mimenu at Baker B'Eish Disraifu, since it's a lav anita class A, there's no malchus. Rabbi Kiva says that's not the reason why there's no malchus. Leiman Hashem said that's not the reason. The reason is because you didn't do an action. When you commit nicer, you just didn't eat it. It was passivity. Nicer is a lav without an action. The kol lav shein by ma'isa, and if there's no action, ain't like in a lav. There's no malchus. Says the Gemara, Mechlal Rabbi Yehuda says the other reason, because it's a lav anitik lasei. Mechlal Rabbi Yehuda says lav shein by ma'isa like in a lav, that there is malchus. Where do you see that there could be malchus if you don't do an action? Minole. We learned it out from the Maitzi Shemra. The man who maligns his kala and says he didn't find virginity, he didn't do an action. Talk is not an action. Amarula Gamer Maitzi Shemra, Ma Maitzi Shemra, Lav Shem by Maisa, and like in a love, there's Malchus, Afka Lav Shem by Maisa, like in a love. Says Gemara, wait a second. That's different because Maitzi Shemra is already an anomaly. Because you get Malchus and you also have to pay a knas of 100 shkalim. L'maitzi Shemra shekain loika mishalim. El Amrei Shlakish Gamar made him zaymim. We learn it out from the false witnesses, from Barry and Yaakov. right? We give them Malchus even though they didn't do anything except say. Says, well, Mal Adam Zaimim, Lav Shem by Maisa, and like in the love. Af Kol Lav Shem by Maisa, like in the love. Says, well, Mal Adam Zaimim, Shekain ain't Srichan Asra. There's no Asra by Adam Zaimim. That's a real anomaly by Adam Zaimim. In the court, the judge doesn't say, by the way, if you're really in the Bahamas, you're going to get it. There's no Asra. Says, well, Maitzi Shemra Yechir. Maitzi Shemra will disprove you. There is Asra. We tell him that, if you malign, you're going to get Malchus and you're going to get, you're going to get it. And still, there's Malchus. The Chazar Adin, you'll say, Mala Maitzi Shemra Shekain Loikin Mishalmim. Edom Zaimim Teichich. Mala Edom Zaimim Mishem Boy Hasra. Maitzi Shemra Teichich. Loi Roi Zekaroi Zev, Loi Roi Kizekaroi Zev. The features of one is not like the other, and the features of the other is not like the one. The common denominator is that Lav Shem B'Maisa. There's no action. We're like in a love. Afkol Lav Shem B'Maisa like in a love. And that's why by Noisy we had to give another reason, because it's Nita Class A. I'm Alat Sada Shavashib and Shekain Knas. Both Moitzi Shemra and Adam Zaimra are Knas. Says, well, that's not a kasha. Holoi kasha, Rabbi Yehuda Loi Savalak, Rabbi Kiva. He doesn't hold Adam Zaimra as a Knas. But there's another way to make a pircha. El Malat Sada Shavashib and Shekain Yesh Bem Tzad Chomer. Each one has a Tzad Chomer. Adam Zaimim doesn't need Asra, and Moitzi Shemra is like in Mishalman. Rabbi Yehuda Tzad Chomer Leipach. This is a Shasi site. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't use the refutation of Tzad Chomer. The only way we could refute is if there's a common denominator between the two. If each one has a different feature, we say, well, it's not because of that feature, because the other one doesn't have that feature. We don't say, well, each one has a stringent feature. We don't ask such a percha. Asks the Gemara, V'Rabbanan Hailoi Sana B'Reyacha Eit Shoker My Darshabei. The Rabbanan who say that Rabbanan that say that there is where you pay, you don't get Malchus. So what do they do with what does he do with Leisana B'Reyacha Eit Shoker? And in the Sefer it says that they only get one set of Malchus for Kasher Zamam. They don't get another set of Malchus for Leisana B'Reyacha Eit Shoker. So what do they do with Leisana B'Reyacha Eit Shoker? That's coming to tell you a warning that you shouldn't testify falsely. Right? Because remember, we always say that where there's an einish, there has to be a warning. Rabbi Meir Asar L'Edim Zayim Minalei. Rabbi Yirmiyah Nafkalei, we know that out. Those that remain will hear about it and see. And they won't continue to do the crime. Says the Gemara of Rabbanan. And the Rabbanan, what do they do? How do they know? What do they do with the pasuk of Anishmam, Nisharm Yishmu V'Yiro, when they learn from the pasuk of when the pasuk of Leisana V'Reyacha Eit Shoker they use for a warning. So what do they do with the pasuk of Anishmam Yishmu V'Yiro V'Lo Yasifu Ha'id? Says the Gemara, they use it lachroza. They use it that you have to proclaim in court. You should know these people are Edom Zaimimim. This way people will see that they're punished and they won't come to testify falsely. Reb Meir Achrozim, how does he know that you have to proclaim it? He learns it from the words Meyishmu V'Yiro. he learns it out from the first words that they will hear about and he'll be afraid, nafka, that you have to make such a proclamation. Now, Motzi Yom Tov, that's Sunday night. Sunday night, shir will be at 10.
It's Monday night.
Monday night?
Yeah.
Monday night.
Monday night.
Sunday, Monday.
I'm gonna miss all of you for a long time. Monday night, sure, but we're in perfect position because we got 2 blot ahead. We only have to do 2 blot. That's really, Rabbi said, it's really something. Imagine if we had to do 4 blot. We did good preparing. We'll have to do that again on Chol Hamoed. At least get 1 blot ahead. Right? Chol Hamoed, we only have to get 1 blot ahead.
3 days.
Huh?
Only 3 days to do it.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but we only have to get 1 blot ahead.
Yeah.
And I want to say that now we're going to have a shir for the Shabbos HaGadol table